Good everyone. I hope you're having an amazing day. Today I'm going to talk about safe navigation operator. Safe navigation operator can be handy in Apex, right? I'll explain to you where to use it. So safe navigation operator, right? You normally use to replace explicit sequential checks for null references, right? So you might have seen a code where you normally do for a null check, right? So for instance, you have a method which returns null, right? And so you normally do if class dot method equals to or not equals to null, then do this, right? Instead, you can use safe navigation operator here, right? So in other words, let me give you a very simple example here. Okay, let's go to developer console. Um, so we have okay, so we go to developer console. And so I'll just give you a very simple example here. Okay, let's do this. Okay, so let me try to get access a name from a account object, right? So you have an account object, right? And I wanted to access a name from an account record. So any account record, right? So let's say if I do select, okay, select name from account, right? Limit one, right? So you can do if I do okay, so if I do system dot debug, okay, so if I do this and if I do dot name, okay, so what I'm trying to do is that I'm trying to get a name from an account object. So okay, so this one you can also write something like this. So you can do account, just to make it simple. Okay, account A equals to okay, select name from account limit one. Okay, and you can also do this. um, so you can also do this as a dot name, right? Okay, when you do a dot name, right? So you get something like this. Okay, pretty straightforward, right? Now think about a scenario, right, where you do not have you know a record coming back. Okay, so let's say so limit um, so not limit where name equals to um, so you can say demo some strange value. Okay, so let me put this in the try final. So that's the best way to do it. Okay, so we just do this here. Catch. We're gonna do exception ex. Please make sure that you have a right naming convention based on your company's naming standard, right? So I mean every company follows their own. So or if you don't know, you can look at the Salesforce standard coding standards. Okay, so right. So now what happens here, right? So the code runs, no problem, but yeah, list have no rows for assignment to a subject, right? So what's happening here? Look at it here. What's happening here? So your code, right, is running, but it's not returning any value, right? Select name from account where name equals to. So there is no such thing, right, in the database. So it's throwing back a null value, okay? So you're trying to access a equals to a dot name, right, which is the null dot name, which obviously throw an exception. So normally what you tend to do, so let me, uh, so you tend to do something like this, okay? If a not equals to null, okay, right, then do something like this, okay? I mean, most of the times, this is how you might have seen the code, right? Because obviously you have to check if the object is null or not null, right? Otherwise, you're trying to access a value from a null object, it will throw an exception. That's normal, right? So this is the code you normally write. Okay, when you run now, okay, so what happens is it will say list has no, because that is because it is firing from this one, right? This is firing from this one, right? The first one. Okay. Now, instead of this, right? What we're gonna do, because you're trying to assign a value to uh, to a object variable, right? Which a null value. So obviously throwing it. So I'm gonna do something like this: system.debug. Okay, right? I'm gonna do something like this. Okay, right? Okay. So let me run it. And what want to happen is it will fire it because obviously the code is getting triggered and you're trying to access a value which from a null value which is incorrect, right? Obviously, this whole thing returns null and you're trying to say null.name, which makes no sense, right? I'll explain to you. Let me try to finish it, then I'll try to cover this stuff in more detail. Okay, so now why do we need a code which is better than this code, right? Think about it, right? You might have written a code based on certain assumption, right? And if you have a code like this, right, for whatever reason, right, you are assuming one thing, that your code will always return a value, right? Means if you write a code like this, you're assuming that this part of the code, right, will always return a non-null value, which is not the case all the time, right? Because you could have a data issue, right? If you are, let's say, it works very well in the sandbox, but if you go to production, it might, break because production may not have the data, right? You may not have the data which equals to, this name. Like in our case, we do not have this data, right? So that's where safe navigation operator comes into picture. Okay, so the way to write a safe navigation operator, just put here a question mark here. Okay, now see the magic. Voila, right? See the difference. So you don't get that nasty error like list index out of bounds or whatever, right? So what happens is, so this expression, right, this one, it's trying to say that, look, if this first line of a code is null, I'm not even going to bother with dot name check, right? It will only get executed, okay, if this this stuff has a value in it. Okay, let me change this. Okay, and let's say limit 1. Now we know, right? This one will return some value, right? So we're going to do this. Okay, and right, so it will work for both the scenario, even if you have a value or not value. So the way it works is here, right? So if you in a safe navigation operator, okay, let me come down here. So let's say we have this is actually going to replace the code if say variable, let's say you have a variable equals to null, right? No, then do this, else do this, right? Something like that. Okay, so else do something else. Okay, so this is gonna replace this part of the code. Okay, so that's exactly what it is doing. It's a safe navigation operator, right? So if the first line of the code, right, this line of code returns null, okay, so if you say null, this is operator dot value, so the answer will be null. Okay, not null, sorry, not null. right, dot value will be equals to whatever value it is. Oh, come on. This is what I hate about this laptop and this Ubuntu. So just yeah. Okay, never mind. Right. So this is what's going to happen, right? So if it is null, right? If you're trying to, evaluate a field or a method from a null object, right? It will return null. Okay. So if you're trying to evaluate a non-null, right, and you try to access the fields or methods, right, it will give whatever value it's supposed to return. Okay. So that's why the safe navigation operators are handy. So you need to use it wisely. I mean, please do not start to believe that, oh, I'm going to use it every single place, right? It's case by case, right? Okay. And there's a documentation about it. I'll put a link in the description below. I would highly encourage you to please check it out, read it for yourself, and try it for yourself, right? It's very important you guys do hands-on. That's the thing I really want to emphasize on. Please do not just watch my videos and assume that you're gonna be a programmer next year. That's not gonna work, my friend. You got to practice it yourself, okay? So that's the beauty of programming. The more you practice, the more you get better at it, okay? Right. So this is all I wanted to talk about today. So next topic, I'm going to talk about the static methods, right, which is very important. I'll tell you how to use it and why to use it, okay, and why it's handy. So that's the next topic we're going to cover next time, okay. Till then, have a great day. Adios.